Hi, I'm Theresa V, and this is the place to be if you're a sensitive empath who wants to live more on purpose. Today we're going to discuss feeling helpless and what you can do when you're there. Regardless of how good your spiritual practice is, every single one of us goes through periods where we feel completely helpless. We have had our share recently of opportunities to feel this way in some capacity. The first thing we need to realize is that we are the protectors of our own energy. No one else is going to do that for us. There are so many things in the world that exist solely to pull us out of our flow. We are here to hold the vision of what is to come, of the peace and the unity that can be created on this planet. And there's so much energy in opposition, and that simply seeks to pull us off our course of feeling balanced, of feeling centered, or at least of moving in the direction of feeling those things. So it's important for us to realize that while we need to be connected to things going on in the world outside of us, and we need to know what is going on so that we know the kind of light to hold, the kind of vision that is needed, we also need to know that we do not need to stay there. We can simply observe, learn, and then pull ourselves out of the situation and go back to our sovereignty, come back to center, come back to the vision of the world that we know is possible. And from the place of holding that vision, then, we are inspired because we are centered, because our energy is quiet. We are inspired by our higher selves, by our divine team, in regard to the steps that we need to take in order to actually create that sense of heaven on earth, to create that world that we've been visioning for so long. We can only do this from that place of calm centeredness. For all of humanity, especially for those of us who are sensitive, the gut is the place that will tell us what is true and what is not true for us. I get asked a lot about the differences in the energies we feel in our gut. I have shared in the past that if something feels like it punches you in the gut, it probably means that it's part of your purpose. It's part of your reason for being here. I also get asked about when things feel really icky in the gut. Does that mean that I'm here to fix that? So there are subtle differences in these energies. The energies that you're here to help address will feel like you've been punched in the gut, but then there'll be a pull. There'll be a pull from your gut towards that situation. So no matter how repulsive you find it, no matter how upsetting, there's something inside of you, a fire that's been lit, where you need to put more of your energy in that direction. So it's like a punch, a fire igniting, and a pull. The other type of energy is when you get the feeling in your gut and you feel nauseated and you feel repulsed and you feel like you need to distance yourself from that as much as possible. Both of these energies are coming up in spades for us right now, so it's important for us to be able to differentiate. Those kinds of feelings indicate to you that this is not true at all. This is something that is going against the very fiber of your being. So don't pay any attention to it. Leave it where it is. If there's a pull, you may be called to speak out in terms of your truth in relation to it. If not, leave it where it is because it's serving somebody somewhere. So that's a really important distinction for us to be able to make in these times. It's also important for us to realize that a feeling of helplessness is not equal to hopelessness. Sometimes we get those two things confused. And when we're in the feeling of not knowing what to do, not feeling like we can help the situations, it just means we're in that in-between stage where we are waiting for the guidance, where we're building ourselves up to know what to do. Hopelessness means that we've given up all hope, and very often hopelessness leads to sadness, depression, upset, distancing ourselves from other people, and isolation. We have not been put on this planet and we have not chosen to incarnate here in order to suffer. That is old school mentality, and that is absolutely as far from the truth as we can get. We are here to anchor the frequencies of love and joy as much as possible from a place of purity, from a place of sovereignty, and from a place of open-heartedness. So if you find yourself in a place that resembles hopelessness, there are a few things that you can do to begin pulling yourself out of it pretty quickly and before it takes root. One of the first things you can do is find a place where you don't feel helpless. Something that we can do for ourselves, or change about ourselves, or change in our immediate surroundings. It doesn't have anything to do with another person. So it can be as simple as one choice. Start making those micro decisions to start changing your own life. Taking a moment to just pause and ask what will bring us into the energy that we desire to move forward in. Ask ourselves, what will bring me back into a higher vibration? What will bring me back into the place that I want to be holding the energy for the rest of the world? Making a micro choice in your life, in a place where you are not helpless, in a place where you have power and some control over the outcome, will help you to get back on track in terms of your view of the world and your feeling of power. To this day, one of the fastest ways that I have found to shift energy is to simply move your body. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can be just getting up and walking from the couch to the backyard and back. It can be taking a walk in the neighborhood. When we start to move our muscles, when we start to change the way our body is functioning, it starts to change the thought patterns in our head. We interrupt those thought patterns, we interrupt the way we're feeling, and begin to feel something else. Movement is the fastest way for us to come back to our body, to ground ourselves in. A lot of times when we are feeling that we have no power, it's because other people's thoughts and other people's visions of the world have come in and crowded out or clouded our own. So by pulling our energy back into our own bodies, we are beginning to take that control back, to take that power back, and to function from the world behind our eyes. One of the quickest ways back to freedom is to realize that you don't have to save everyone else. And when we give ourselves the gift of freedom by saying, you know what? Other people are not my responsibility. What is my responsibility is exactly right here, in this body, in my surroundings. We can be much more free, remaining open to conversation, remaining open to differing perspectives, and to having that heart-to-heart connection regardless of what else is going on in the world outside of us. One quick way out of helplessness is to reconnect ourselves, to stop self-punishing, to let ourselves get outside and go for a walk, even if it's just that simple. Reconnecting with the world outside of ourselves, with the world outside of our homes, will help us to see that the world continues to go on despite what's happening within our hearts and within our relationships. And this can bring things back into perspective. We begin to ask ourselves the questions of how important really is this in terms of the world and its functioning, and we can decide what actions to take next or not, but just begin to move forward, feeling more connected, feeling like we are not all alone on this beautiful blue marble, and feeling like life goes on, regardless of what happens in our own lives. And at any point in time, we can just connect to that life in a very simple way. ask for guidance. We can say to the divine, we can say to our higher selves and our divine team, I'm feeling really helpless and I need some guidance. Please guide me. And the guidance will come. A lot of people have been saying, especially recently, well, the guidance doesn't feel like it's coming. When we are in a place of flux and we are in a place of shifting, sometimes it takes a little bit longer for the guidance to get to us, but most likely it just takes longer for us to perceive the guidance because we're going through so many other thoughts, we're going through so many other changes, and there are different energies moving through our lives constantly. It does sometimes take us a little bit more time to register that guidance. But if guidance is truly not coming, then it just means that it's not the right time. You are still being prepared for what's next. And that's you personally and the collective you. Important for us to realize that divine timing is key, especially now when we are living in a moment-to-moment paradigm. When you're waiting for guidance, pay attention to all of your senses, because very often the guidance will come in the way that we least expect it. These little things that universe does to reach out to us, those are our moments of guidance, our moments of clarity. It's not always going to be a big thunderbolt from the sky. Our divine guidance usually will not even make any sense at all on paper. And that's how we know that it is not a thought coming from our own head, that this is something that we would never have chosen, that we would never have guided ourselves to do because it seems so ridiculous. But it keeps coming and keeps coming. And even though it may make us feel a little bit uncomfortable because we're not sure how we're going to accomplish it, the feeling underneath that uncomfortability, that discomfort, is a sense of peace. We know that once we do take the action, it feels right and it will feel peaceful. If something doesn't feel that way, that is not your divine guidance. And I recommend just tabling that until you have that feeling and that sense of peace and that sense of sureness and assuredness. You can continue to ask your angels and divine team to give you guidance, and you can even specify potential ways you would like to receive it, but then just remain open to all of the ways that they could possibly reach you, because the beauty of receiving guidance is very often in the way that we are reached and in the care and the joy and the miracles that it takes to get that guidance to us. Allowing ourselves to feel more connected to our divine team, to the world around us, and even to each other is a very, very powerful way for us to pull ourselves out of the energy of helplessness, moving our bodies, taking fierce control over our energetic integrity, allowing ourselves to not be responsible for everyone else or even for anyone else and their own process, and remaining open to all of the beautiful and miraculous ways our guidance can come to us, knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt, even in those times where it feels like we have been in the void for a really long time without connection, without communication, knowing that it is coming, it is on the way, knowing that every hair on your head is numbered and accounted for. That is how much you are loved. So let's just breathe that in, letting that love fill every one of our cells, especially the places where it doesn't feel it can reach, and releasing any resistance. We're going to do that a couple more times, inhaling and releasing. If you would like to feel more connected to people just like you, then please come over and join our free Facebook group, Spiritual Love Warriors. The link is in the description of this video or in the comments. You may also want to check out our August Angel Transformation Hour happening August 25th. This is a completely donation-based call where the angels will channel messages about what's happening in the world and with us as individuals, and then the angels will spend the rest of the time answering your own personal questions. Nothing is too big, too small, or too personal to ask the angels on this call. So please consider joining us because the donations are shared out with the community. I look so forward to being with you in both of these places. I send you so much love, and until next time, I wish you power and empowerment.